Ukraine and Russia are holding new talks this Monday morning, but there's no let-up in the fighting or of the Russian targeting of Ukraine's biggest cities. This is new video into us today from Kyiv. Ukrainian officials say at least 2 people were killed in the bombardment that hit an apartment block. At least 12 others are hurt. Now, this video comes to us from Ukraine's emergency service, and it shows the rescue in the aftermath. Ukraine is trying again today to move more people to safety from Kyiv suburbs that are seeing heavy fighting and from besieged cities both in the east and in the south. A ceasefire is a key goal for today's talks. Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky says another is setting up a summit meeting for him and Russian President Vladimir Putin.
У нашої делегації завдання чітке – зробити усе, щоб відбулася зустріч президентів, зустріч, яку, я впевнений, очікують люди. Зрозуміло, що це складна історія, тяжкий шлях, але шлях потрібний. І наша мета, щоб у цій боротьбі, у цій переговорній, складній роботі Україна отримала необхідний результат. Необхідний для нас, для миру, для безпеки.
So, there you have the Ukrainian president in his late-night address, the latest release from him to Ukrainians. In Lviv, Ukraine this morning, our David Common, part of our CBC News team covering the ongoing war on Ukraine. And David, good morning. As Ukraine and Russia hold yet another round of talks today, the cities in Ukraine are still coming under attack, including where you are right now. What do we know? What is the latest?
Well, Heather, it is something of a symbol of defiance as we see children going back to school in this city and people out in parks in spite of hours of air raid sirens occurring last night. The main action, the horrible attacks that we have seen continue to take place in the capital, in Kyiv, where, as you note, an apartment block hit, a number of people reportedly killed and injured, and seeing that continued bombardment. Not yet a siege to the extent that it appears that goods are still getting in, but there are concerns about how long food will be able to get in, water concerns, electricity concerns. Mariupol, another key city that has sustained considerable bombardment and continues to do so. We're now seeing Russian forces largely controlling the Black Sea, and that means that ships that would bring additional supplies into Ukraine are essentially blocked now. However, having said all of this, as we've said many times before, if the Kremlin thought that this was going to be quick, it is not. The Ukrainian resistance has been significant, with the aid, of course, of weapons being brought in from the West through the Polish-Ukrainian border, and that continues. That's the big picture. At the same time, as we hear about a diplomatic process between the Ukrainians and the Russians, who knows where that leads? Some believe there is promise. Others believe Putin will never actually agree to that. But on the smaller level, we continue to hear about children who are being left orphaned, mothers with babies strapped to their chests carrying one roller bag and going through the Polish-Ukrainian border. As we did, we were going the other way. They're going into safety and seeing, again, hundreds of thousands of people pouring over the multiple border points just to get out, to get away from some of the more intense battle scenes that we have seen in many parts of this country, Heather.
David, the numbers that we're hearing this morning, more than 6 million Ukrainians have been forced from their homes by the Russian invasion. Most internally displaced, nearly 3 million now out of the country, and establishing safe routes for those people to get out of the fighting. That's another goal for the talks today between Ukraine and Russia. So what is the latest on the humanitarian crisis?
There is once again an effort to try to create humanitarian corridors for people to get out of the particularly besieged cities. But as we've seen time and time again, those have often fallen apart, that people who have tried to get out and have come under attack once again. We do know that people have been able to get out. I talked to one woman who spent basically a week in a shelter with her children before she was able to make her way out. And people do continue to make their way out. But the vast majority of Ukrainians remain in this country, some spending time in shelters, in basements, others defiant and just staying in their homes because it is frankly just easier in the face of what they're receiving sometimes to stay in those homes. But on the humanitarian level, let's remember, most Ukrainians have not left this country. Most of them remain here. Some of them involved in the mobilization, the effort to fight back against Russian forces. But others, particularly the many, many kids, are facing very difficult situations in some parts of this country and will continue to do so as the Russians slowly advance. It is a slow advance, but they are advancing nonetheless.